Who wants to go first? Mr. Manter,
Here.
you're right here. Let's hear it.
Basically, a lot of it could be a repeat. But there's something that has to be known right up front. In our US Constitution, we do have the Bill of Rights, but we also have a clear statement as to who can make law. Congress. In our state constitution, it's our legislature or the people on referendum. I question who else in the state can make a law, i.e., can the executive, can agencies, can the courts? No, they all have to follow and abide by the law, just like the claim I have to. And I've been told by the state Supreme Court that the information was available, that I was supposed to know it all. Well, what I'm finding out is that in your own, let me get my glasses on, in your own, what you have to do, and Roberta said, I read through it, and she said, I need to come down here and mention it to you, that you have certain things that you're supposed to do, and I have some real questions about it. For example, you go down, this is on your duties. Commission shall consider the following: property owner liability, including personal injury, property damage, and environmental damage liability resulting from public use of an abandoned and discontinued road. Why don't you call it a public easement? Because that's what it ends up being. And that means it's a public road. Why are we expecting private people to be taking care of public roads? I can go down through this whole thing the same way. It's so, and the other word that is missing out of all of this, and I can repeat it, is closed. Because in my own case, the county commissioner said the road that I live on was closed to be retained as a private way. Well, honestly, if I looked at that and then reverse looked up what those terms meant, I wouldn't find out by statute that they meant what they were trying to say. So when you're getting into this, you really need to know that what was the badgering point with the legislature when we were back, state and local, was that they needed to know, and I'm going to use it, a method of something like minimum maintenance roads, New Hampshire's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 type of road, etc., so that municipalities would have an option. This is what we need to do, is to find out what kind of options we can set up for municipalities so they can legitimately be able to handle the roads. And you've got to remember, there are parts of the state that are totally swamped, part of it's rock, some of it's sandy. You've got to be able to make it so it's general enough so that each community can determine how to handle them. This business about all roads have to be safe and convenient to motor vehicles, or good luck, buddy, we're not, because I was promised an unfettered public right to use the road. And if you believe in the courts being able to make a law, somebody's responsible for making sure the road I live on is unfettered. And it wasn't me. I didn't ask for it. So the thing is that we've got to get away from this mentality of the all or nothing, and we've got to give municipalities different layers of roads that they can take care of, and probably consistent with the way they're being used, maybe weight limits to some extent, whatever. But having this, and not regarding the fact roads like the town of Fayette said in their own town report, roads were legally closed. Here, I'm going to read this one to you because this is interesting. They quote down in the paragraph down below, this is a 1947 town report. We, the selectmen of Fayette Town, hereby petition your board, this is the county commissioners, to officially discontinue the following county roads situated in Fayette. What did that mean if I looked it up in the statutes? Not in the court records, in the statutes. It says, reason they are no longer used and not kept open any part of the year. The town of Fayette desires to retain the right-of-way as it now exists on these roads. What does that mean? What did the county commissioners have authority to do? Now, if you back up on a private way, it had to be a person or persons who were being unreasonably refused and neglected before they could even get to the county commissioners to have it heard. This was the municipality itself. Were they being unreasonably refused and neglected? And what would a private way lead to? A singular property. And it would go over private land that's going to become public. But what they said in the paragraph before, the town of Fayette said, for years, Fayette has been legally liable for snow removal and road repairs on several roads that were grown up and no longer used. To correct the situation, we inspected each of these roads and petitioned the county commissioners to have such roads legally closed. I just read to you. Town of Fayette hereby petition your board to officially discontinue. What does that mean? All right. To have them legally closed. The county commissioners held a hearing at the town hall August 21st, 1945, and as a result, officially closed the following county roads. But with the provision that the town of Fayette continues to hold the right of way, so that if in the years to come, these roads should be reopened, we will not have to purchase the right of way, trying to avoid just compensation, point blank. Proper signs have been posted on closed roads. Well, when I got there, there wasn't any, but there were ones on all the other roads that led into the north end of Young Road, plus a whole bunch of them around the rest of the town of the other 8 pieces, 7 pieces of road. All had dead end on them. Where I came in, there wasn't a sign at all. So it's just, what were they doing? What were they trying to do? Interesting note. You read what they told the townspeople in the town report. They never mentioned, the county commission said the roads, ought to be, the closing of the several pieces of road be granted, to be retained as a private way, subject to gates and bars. Misrepresentation. And by the way, after this town meeting, February 1st of the following year, they sold my property that they held on a tax lien to my predecessor, and they described the road as being discontinued. But yet, now it's open to the people to get to their camp. There's no other way to get to it. They called it a camp. It was a full-time residence of the person who lived there before. And I got news for it. People live in a lot worse than that, even today in this state. So, if municipalities want to play this game of permitting people to live in these places or selling them to whatever and legally hold on to the road, this is one thing. The municipality has to be responsible for taking care of the road for the intended purpose that they are permitting it to be used and or taxing it to be used. No ifs, ands, or buts. Because now you're taking my private property for a public purpose with no intention of compensating me. Plus, you're expecting me to fix your road at no expense to the municipality, et cetera, against my will. Try the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. That's a violation right there. I may not be a slave technically because I wasn't kidnapped. But on the other hand, you can't make me work without pay against my will. That's why it's serious. We have to look at these things. We have to know what we're doing. We have to know those 2 other words. And we have to be able to explain to people why courts have been able to ignore the law to make decisions favorable to a majority of people in a town to force another person to lose their rights as prescribed by the Constitution of the United States. Sorry if I sound grumpy about it, but yeah, I've had my grump. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manter.
Thank you for putting up with me.
Are there other members of the public who'd like to speak